انظري إلي. يا
Have you ever felt totally alone while camping, only to realize you aren't? Imagine having an eerie encounter with silent children sitting along a pitch-black desert road, or tracking your drone to a hidden stash inside an abandoned mine shaft. If this happened to you, would you step closer or escape? On December 29, 2024, Jeff from the U.S. Exploration Channel Sidetracks was flying a drone over a remote mining area in Yavapai County when it crashed about 500 feet away. He left the trail and pushed through dense desert brush, using GPS and the drone's signal to track it. While searching, he passed several abandoned mine shafts. One deep shaft was still open, and inside he noticed something unusual. After reviewing the footage, he contacted Bureau of Land Management authorities. They entered the shaft and removed the secured coverings. Inside the bags, they found only food. What first seemed disturbing turned out to be harmless. If you were in that spot, would you keep searching or leave immediately? Instagram user Nikki Q was camping alone in the desert when it happened. A woman's scream echoed, followed by fast footsteps and dry rustling near the campsite. He first thought it was a prank, but there were no other tents, and the area had been quiet for hours. The sound circled the campsite once, then stopped. Nikki Q stayed awake until morning. But was it really a woman, or something like a mountain lion or a bobcat? It raises questions about what made that sound, and if you heard it, would you stay or leave? A man was camping alone in the desert late at night when he suddenly heard a noise outside his tent. Feeling uneasy, he turned on a light. That was when a dark figure appeared at the entrance. Its shape looked human, but the details were unclear in the darkness. Then the clip ends. Later, the person filming questioned whether it could have been a jinn. It leaves doubt about what stood outside that tent, and if you saw that shape, would you stay or try to escape immediately? TikToker tense. Jean was driving through the desert in Mexico late at night when something unusual appeared.
This is so freaking creepy.
There were no houses, no lights, and no traffic, only empty desert on both sides. Along the roadside, children were sitting alone. The farther they drove, the more children they passed. There was no sign of where they came from or why they were there. The user never shared any updates about what happened next. It makes you wonder why those children were there in the dark. And if you saw that, would you stop or keep driving? In 1928, a young married couple set out to take on one of the most dangerous rivers in America. Their names were Glenn and Bessie Hyde, newlyweds who were adventurous, driven, and determined to make history. Their goal was to become the first married couple to run the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon and possibly set a speed record. There was one issue. Glenn had river experience, but Bessie did not. She was only 22 and had never handled white water before. Still, in October 1928, they launched their heavy 20-foot wooden scow into the Colorado River and began their journey downstream. By mid-November, they had made strong progress. On November 18th, they were seen below Hermit Rapid after hiking up the south rim to resupply. Witnesses later said they seemed confident and optimistic. Then they pushed off again, and that became the last confirmed sighting of them alive. They never reached Needles, California, their final destination. Weeks later, on December 19th, a search party found their boat near River Mile 237. It was upright, undamaged, and still full of food and supplies. Nothing appeared disturbed, as if they had simply stepped away and never returned. A camera recovered from the boat revealed their final developed photo, taken near River Mile 165. Notes they left behind showed they had successfully passed several major rapids, including 231 Mile Rapid, placing them near Mile 232, one of the more dangerous sections of the river. Historians believe their scow may have hit submerged rocks in that area. One idea suggests they climbed onto the rocks to free the boat and were then swept away by the strong current. The Colorado River in the Grand Canyon is unforgiving. Without life jackets, survival would have been unlikely. What keeps this case alive is what followed. Nearly a century later, their bodies were never found. Not a single trace. Over time, rumors appeared. Some claimed Glenn may have harmed Bessie. Others believed they abandoned the trip on purpose. One woman even claimed to be Bessie under a new identity, though this was never confirmed. The most accepted explanation remains simple but tragic: an accident in one of the most dangerous river systems in North America. Nearly 100 years later, the fate of Glenn and Bessie Hyde remains one of the Grand Canyon's most haunting mysteries. It makes you wonder what really happened in those final moments on the river, and if you were there, would you trust the water or turn back? A group of friends went on a day hike through the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. While walking, one of them took a photo to share with family and friends. Later that day, when their family responded, the reaction was unexpected. Instead of commenting on the hike, they pointed out something unusual in the background on a nearby hill. A figure could be seen. It appeared to be wearing a dark hoodie and a white mask, partially hidden behind bushes. The group had already passed that area without noticing anyone there. It makes you wonder how it stayed hidden, and if you would notice in time? A Reddit user shared an unsettling photo taken at their old village home in Pakistan. The family had returned after many years and took a picture in front of the abandoned building. Later, while reviewing the images, they noticed something disturbing. From a dark, broken doorway, a face-like shape appeared to be peering out. They were certain no one had been inside, and it didn't look like a living person. The colors and clarity seemed off. It raises concern about whether the place was truly safe, and if you were there, would you stay or leave immediately? A man in Saudi Arabia shared this clip to warn others in the desert. At first, everything appears normal. Then he throws a stone, revealing that the sand was actually covering a hidden pond. It was completely camouflaged by the surrounding desert and could be very deep and dangerous, especially when you cannot see where you are stepping. One careless step could drop you into a hidden pool, and would you be able to get out? In 2009, a woman walking her dog near an abandoned construction site outside Albuquerque, New Mexico, made a disturbing discovery. Lying in the dirt was what appeared to be a human bone. At first, investigators believed it might be an isolated find, but when police searched the area, they uncovered more remains, and then even more. In total, the remains of 11 people were found buried across the site of a halted housing development in the desert. Many of the victims were believed to be women who had gone missing years earlier, some disappearing as far back as 2 decades before the discovery. Several had struggled with addiction, and many of their families had been searching for answers for years. This shocking discovery forced investigators to reopen multiple cold cases. Detectives began reviewing old reports and missing persons files, hoping to identify the victims. Authorities believe the remains may be connected to a serial offender, sometimes called the West Mesa bone collector. Even after years of investigation, no one has been arrested. It raises concern that something like this could happen without being noticed, and if it was near you, would you realize in time? A traveler in Greece captured footage of something unusual. The sky suddenly turned a deep, fiery orange. At first, it looked like a strong filter had been applied, but the person filming said that was exactly how it appeared in real life.
I don't know what's going on.
Some viewers said it could be a sandstorm with sunlight passing through dust. The air may be hard to breathe and hard to see, so would you stay or leave quickly? A group of men were exploring a rocky area when they noticed a deep pit in the ground. Curious, they moved closer and looked down inside. That was when they saw a woman standing at the bottom. She was holding something in her arms, cradling it carefully like a baby. When the camera zoomed in, the shape looked off. Whatever she was holding did not appear to be a baby.
انظري إلي. يا.
Even stranger, the woman barely moved, just standing there and staring up at them. The situation made them uneasy, and none of them chose to climb down to investigate. Instead, they began praying and left the area as quickly as possible. To this day, no one knows who the woman was or what she was holding. Being that close to something unknown in a deep pit could be dangerous, and if you were there, would you go down or walk away? In December 1989, a disturbing discovery was made in the Arizona desert. Travelers who had taken a wrong turn near a remote highway found the remains of a young woman lying alone in the sand. Her life had been taken, but investigators had no idea who she was. With no identification and no leads, the case quickly went cold, and she became known only as a Jane Doe. Just 2 days later, nearly 400 miles away in Oxnard, California, inside a public park restroom, someone heard babies crying. When they looked inside, they found 2 infant girls lying on the floor. The babies had been left there. Authorities searched for their parents, but no one came forward. Eventually, the girls were placed for adoption and given new lives. For more than 30 years, the 2 cases remained separate until modern DNA technology changed everything. As adults, the twins began searching for their biological family. What investigators discovered was shocking. The unidentified woman found in the Arizona desert was their mother. After decades, the Jane Doe finally had a name. But the most important question still remains unanswered. What really happened to their mother, and who left the babies hundreds of miles away? Even today, the case remains unsolved. An 84-year-old woman disappears from her home in Tucson, Arizona, and what investigators find only adds to the mystery. Nancy Guthrie vanished under suspicious circumstances, prompting an immediate response from local deputies and the FBI. One of the first disturbing clues came from doorbell camera footage recorded the day she went missing. In the video, an armed individual approaches the house and deliberately covers the camera lens with leaves, blocking the view. As the search expanded, the FBI confirmed there were multiple persons of interest, focusing efforts around Tucson, believing those involved were likely local. A ransom demand later appeared, asking for 1 Bitcoin, about $67,000 at the time, even higher than the FBI's $50,000 reward for information. Investigators noticed something unusual. The Bitcoin account in the demand did not match the one referenced in the original note. Authorities questioned a suspect south of Tucson and searched his home, but he was released with no charges. The search continues. Nancy Guthrie remains missing, and no arrests have been made. Investigators are still working to determine what happened, and anyone with information is urged to come forward. The case remains active and ongoing. A man was flying a drone over the countryside, hoping to capture calm, scenic footage when he noticed a small group of people below standing in a circle. As the drone moved closer, their appearance became unsettling. 3 figures were dressed in black robes and wore white masks. They suddenly raised their hands and bowed in unison, repeating the motion over and over. When the drone hovered closer, one of them lifted a hand, and the drone appeared to move backward against his control. Whether it was a ritual or something staged, the scene still felt disturbing, and if you saw that below you, would you stay and watch or pull away immediately? 17-year-old Tanya Tovar vanished after being dropped off at a residence in Salt Lake City. When she stopped answering her phone and did not show up as expected, her family became desperate and frantic. Days turned into weeks with no answers. On December 21st, a leg was discovered in a field near Vista Del Mar. The finding was grim and unsettling, and at first investigators could not identify whose remains had been found. As time passed, DNA testing confirmed what her loved ones feared. The leg belonged to Tanya. Authorities later traced connections to a 51-year-old man named Abraham Feinblum, leading to his arrest on suspicion of murder and resisting a peace officer. Friends and family remembered Tanya not for how her story ended, but for her bright personality and the way she lit up a room. The investigation is still ongoing. If something like this happened nearby, would you notice the warning signs in time? 3 friends were out hiking when one of them took a casual photo of the others in a dry field with sparse bushes and trees. They posed and took the picture, and nothing seemed unusual at the time. Later, when she received the photo, something in the background stood out. Partially hidden among the dry bushes was a figure none of them had noticed. A woman with long dark hair and what looked like a white dress appeared to be watching them. It leaves a question about what could have been there without them realizing. And if you were in that moment, would you notice before it was too late? Late at night, a homeowner recorded something unsettling outside their desert home on a security camera. A faint light appeared near the gate, and slowly it began to take shape, forming the outline of a person. You could make out legs pacing back and forth, moving in a deliberate way. Then, just as suddenly, it disappeared. The homeowner believes it might be a guardian presence watching over the house, while others think it could be a camera glitch or illusion. If you saw it yourself, would you feel safe staying there? A Reddit user named BodyFounder was exploring the desert when they came across a bone. They shared it online, hoping someone could identify it. One commenter suggested it might be a human femur, pointing out its fragile and bleached appearance, as if it had been exposed for a long time. Others noted that finds like this in the desert are often animal bones, which can sometimes look human at first glance. It raises concern about how easily something serious could be overlooked. And if you found something like that, would you know what you were really looking at? On the morning of June 23, 2021, 24-year-old Daniel Robinson left his job site in the desert near Buckeye, Arizona, and was never seen again. Daniel was a geologist working in a remote area west of Phoenix. Just after 9 a.m., co-workers saw him drive away in his blue-gray 2017 Jeep Renegade. Nothing seemed wrong, with no argument or emergency. He simply got into his vehicle and drove off into the desert. When he did not return home, he was reported missing that same day. Weeks passed with no answers. Then on July 19, 2021, nearly a month later, his Jeep was found in a desert ravine about 3 miles from the job site. The terrain was rough, making it difficult to see from a distance. The vehicle appeared to have rolled. Inside, investigators found his phone, wallet, keys, and some clothing, but Daniel was not there. Police stated there was no clear evidence of foul play. However, Daniel's family, especially his father, David Robinson, began raising concerns. A private investigator later examined the vehicle and reported additional findings. There was unexplained damage on the Jeep, and data showed the ignition had been turned 46 times after the airbags deployed, which raised questions since vehicles are usually hard to restart after that. Daniel's father has publicly challenged the initial conclusions, saying the case needs deeper investigation. Nearly 5 years later, Daniel Robinson is still missing, and his father continues searching the Arizona desert, organizing volunteers and pushing for answers. While hiking through the desert, this person noticed a strange figure in the distance and started recording. At first, it looked like something similar to a camel, but then it stood upright and began moving on 2 legs. Based on the height of the dunes and the horizon, some viewers estimated the figure could have been over 2 meters tall. The footage is short, shaky, and filmed from far away, with no clear details visible. How could something move like that in an empty place? And if you saw it, would you stay or leave immediately? Astrobyte X, a Reddit user, shared a photo taken by his girlfriend's brother, showing something unusual in the desert. The brother and his friends were exploring a remote part of California, deep in the empty stretches of the Mojave Desert, when they came across something strange. The object looked smooth, pale, and almost organic in shape. It did not resemble normal rock, metal, or debris. They took only one photo, planning to return later with tools, and left it in the sand. When they came back, it was gone. There was no trace that anything had been there, only the printed photo remained. What would you do in that situation? The Blythe intaglios are ancient geoglyphs located in the desert, about 15 miles north of Blythe, near the Arizona border. The figures were made by removing dark surface stones to reveal lighter soil beneath, creating massive shapes that can only be fully seen from above. They are among the most well-known geoglyphs in North America. There are 6 figures spread across 3 areas, believed to have been created between 450 and 2,000 years ago by the Mojave or Quechan people. Some extend up to 171 feet long. From the ground, their shapes look distorted, but from the sky they appear clear. These figures were made to last, preserved by the desert for centuries, but their true meaning is still unknown, so what do you think they were for? On February 9th, 2026, authorities responded to a disturbing discovery in the desert near Barstow, California. According to the San Bernardino County Sheriff Coroner's Department, a caller reported finding what appeared to be a human skull along Fossil Bed Road, a remote dirt road in the area. Deputies arrived and confirmed the remains were human. The case was quickly handed over to the sheriff's Specialized Investigations Division, including homicide detectives and crime scene investigators, who began a detailed search of the surrounding area. During that search, multiple bones and fragments were recovered, all believed to belong to one individual. At this time, the person's identity remains unknown. Authorities have stated that DNA testing is in progress to determine who the remains belong to. Officials have not confirmed how long the remains were there or if foul play is involved, and the investigation is ongoing. It raises concern about how this could go unnoticed, and if it was near you, would you recognize it in time? A user was exploring north of the pyramids of Giza when he came across something unexpected. Stone steps had been carved directly into the bedrock, leading down into a narrow vertical shaft. This site is Abu Rawash, the burial place of Pharaoh Djedefre. Over 4,500 years ago, his pyramid began below the surface, with deep trenches and shafts cut into solid limestone. Workers used passages like these to move underground and shape the hidden core of the structure. Over time, the pyramid was taken apart. Its stone was removed, and most of the structure disappeared. Today, only the steps remain, descending into darkness as quiet traces of a monument that once stood above the desert. For unknown reasons, a man drove toward a tornado instead of leaving. As the funnel crossed the road, he continued straight into the outer edge of it. The car shook under strong winds, and visibility quickly dropped. He passed through the rotating air and came out on the other side, appearing calm and experienced. Whether it was intentional or not, driving into something that powerful is extremely dangerous, and if you were there, would you turn away or keep going? A video appeared online showing a place in Oman that looks completely different from usual. For most of the year, the land is dry and barren, just open desert. But after unusually heavy rain, large areas suddenly fill with water, turning sand into temporary lakes. These bodies of water form in places that normally never see standing water. Locals have shared footage of these sudden desert lakes after storms, and some people online compare them to a pop-up oasis because of how unexpected the change is. The change can happen very quickly, turning dry land into water with little warning. Even though heavy rain can explain it, the timing and scale are not always predictable. In an open desert, water can rise fast and trap you, so if that happened, would you move away in time or get caught in it? In 1963, a man in Turkey was renovating his basement when he made an unexpected discovery. While breaking down a wall, he noticed a small opening behind it. Curious, he looked inside and found a narrow tunnel leading deeper underground. What he had uncovered was remarkable. The tunnel led to a vast underground city hidden beneath the town of Derinkuyu. The city extended nearly 85 meters below the surface and included many tunnels, rooms, and passageways carved directly into the rock. Even more surprising, the complex was large enough to shelter around 20,000 people, along with their animals and food. Inside were living areas, storage rooms, wells, ventilation shafts, and small churches where people once gathered. Historians believe it was used as a refuge during times of invasion, allowing entire communities to stay hidden underground for long periods. For centuries, thousands of people may have lived their lives beneath the surface. This photo was taken late at night while visiting Cemetery Hill. At first, it appears to be a normal nighttime image, but a closer look reveals something unusual in the frame. A tall white figure can be seen. Some viewers believed it was a ghostly presence, while others suggested it could be something simple like a smudge on the camera lens. If you saw it yourself, would you trust your eyes or look for another explanation? A 41-year-old man disappeared without a trace after being seen near Blythe, California, around 10:30 p.m. on February 10, 2026. Neighbors recalled him heading east, possibly toward the Grand Canyon in Arizona. After that, there were no more sightings. His vehicle was not clearly reported abandoned. and there were no obvious signs of what may have happened next. He was described as about 5 feet 10 inches tall, with brown hair and hazel eyes, with a guitar tattoo on his forearm and the number 88 on his shoulder. Law enforcement continues to follow up on tips each day, hoping someone may remember seeing him on the road, in a small town, or turning onto a remote path. So far, only questions remain about where he went that night and why he has not been seen since. If you saw him, would you realize it mattered? In the vast sands of the Sahara, a team of paleontologists came across something that would reshape what we know about prehistoric life. Deep in the desert, they uncovered fossils of a massive predator, unlike anything they had seen before. It was a new species of Spinosaurus, a giant measuring around 40 feet long, which they named Spinosaurus Morabius, meaning astonishing. The team had prepared for months, expecting long periods of digging with no guarantees, but shortly after arriving, they spotted a crest rising from the sand. It was the top of a skull, and they knew immediately it was significant. Its long, low snout and large interlocking teeth were built for catching massive fish, marking it as a river hunter of the ancient Sahara. Its size and the unusual shape of its crest made it stand out from other known dinosaurs. What else could still be hidden beneath the sand? And if you were there, what would you hope to uncover next? This man was out in the desert when a rare event occurred. Suddenly, the sand in front of him began to move, almost like a wave rolling across the ground. At first, it looked unreal, as if the desert itself was flowing. Experts explain this can happen during desert flash floods. Even without rain nearby, a storm miles away can send water rushing across the desert. Because the ground is dry and hard, it cannot absorb the water quickly. Instead, the flood spreads across the surface, pushing sand, mud, and debris forward like a moving wall. What looks like flowing sand is actually a sheet of floodwater carrying the ground with it. Even if it appears slow on camera, these floods can be extremely dangerous. Flash floods in deserts can arrive suddenly and sweep away people, vehicles, and anything in their path. A couple was driving home late one night in Arizona after an evening out when something unusual caught their attention. Above the neighborhood, 2 strange objects were hovering in the dark sky. They quickly took out their phone and began recording.
Is that alien?
Over here.
The objects appeared circular, with lights glowing evenly around their edges. They did not move like drones or helicopters, and there was no sound of engines. What could stay that still and silent in the sky? What were they really, and what could their presence mean? A man and his friends were driving at night along a dark road when something suddenly made them stop. A figure appeared that they could not identify. When one of the men stepped out and moved closer, he realized it was not a normal animal. Its form looked strange, almost unreal, and so unsettling that he quickly turned and ran back to the car. The video ends there, leaving only a brief glimpse of the figure's shape. What do you think it really was? In the mountains of New Mexico, something unusual caught the attention of online explorers. A large white disc appeared to rise from the ground, clearly visible in satellite images. It sits at an elevation of over 7,400 feet, far from any roads or houses, deep in the Sierra Ladrones. Some believe it could be an abandoned structure or something left behind for unknown reasons, while others think it resembles a crashed object. Its isolated location only adds to the mystery. What do you think it could be? And if you found something like that, would you go closer or stay away? More than 100 years ago, archaeologists working at ancient sites in southern Iraq uncovered something they still cannot fully explain. Buried among pottery, tools, and the remains of old buildings were dozens of small clay figurines. At first glance, they appeared human, but the faces were different. Each one had a reptile-like head, with long snouts and large almond-shaped eyes. Some figures even held infants that shared the same unusual features. These artifacts date back nearly 7,000 years to a civilization that existed long before written history in Mesopotamia. Because of that, their meaning remains unclear. Some researchers believe they may represent early gods or spiritual beings tied to ancient beliefs. Others think they could show people wearing ceremonial masks during rituals. The designs were clearly intentional and repeated many times, which raises a question about why these figures were created this way. What do you think they were meant to represent? While traveling through Egypt, a professional photographer visited a museum to see one of the country's most well-known ancient statues. He decided to take a simple photo of it before moving on. At first, the image looked completely normal. Later, when he reviewed the photo, something unusual appeared near the statue. A blurry figure could be seen, shaped like a person standing there, dressed in what looked like long robes. Some viewers even noticed what seemed like a headpiece, similar to those worn by ancient Egyptian rulers. The strange part is that the photographer said no one else was in the room at the time. Would you trust it? On December 1st, 2025, someone recorded a strange clip in Arizona. In the footage, a glowing blue sphere can be seen hovering silently in the sky above the desert. Some people noted that Arizona has recently had an increase in reported UFO sightings. Because of that, many started to wonder if the blue sphere could be related to those reports. So far, no clear explanation has been found. It leaves a question about what could stay hovering like that without sound. And if you saw it, would you think it was natural or something else? Bombay Beach is a small ghost town on the eastern shore of the Salton Sea, deep in the California desert, and today it feels like something out of a post-apocalyptic scene. But it was not always like this. In the 1950s and 60s, Bombay Beach was a small but active resort town. Visitors came to fish, boat, and spend time along the shore of what was once promoted as California's Riviera. Over time, the lake began to change. Because the Salton Sea has no natural outlet, fertilizers and agricultural runoff built up in the water. The salinity kept increasing, leading to massive fish die-offs, and the shoreline filled with the smell of decay. Storms in the 1970s and 80s flooded parts of the town with contaminated water, damaging homes and infrastructure. After that, many residents left, and large areas of Bombay Beach were abandoned. Today, the area is known for broken houses, rusted trailers, and empty streets, creating an eerie atmosphere often seen in films, music videos, and photography projects. Some visitors claim they have seen or heard things they cannot explain, saying the place feels haunted. If you were there, would you stay or leave? A group of fishermen were moving across a desert, searching for water. Just when it seemed hopeless, they noticed something unexpected, a catfish moving along the sand as if heading somewhere. They followed it, and to their surprise, the fish led them to a hidden watering hole where fish could be found. Some people say catfish are extremely resilient, able to survive with little water and even move short distances on land in search of moisture or new pools. Could a fish really survive and move like that, or is there another explanation? Late one night in 2024, a man was driving along a quiet stretch of highway in Arizona, a road locals say is haunted. His dash cam showed the empty road ahead when suddenly a strange gray figure appeared at the side of the highway. It did not move like a person or an animal, and its shape seemed unnatural. The driver had no idea what it was, and the moment passed too quickly to understand. What could move like that on an empty road? In 2003, a 6-inch skeleton was discovered in an abandoned village in Chile's Atacama Desert. It was wrapped in cloth and placed inside a small pouch. The body was tiny, but had formed teeth and an elongated skull. It had 10 ribs instead of 12. Its unusual shape led to claims that it might be alien. In 2012, scientists tested its DNA. The results showed it was a human fetus connected to the local population. The remains were named Ata. Further study revealed multiple gene mutations linked to bone development, which likely caused severe skeletal abnormalities. The mystery shifted from an extraterrestrial idea to a case of rare human genetics. Would you think it was human or something else? On November 4th, 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter uncovered a buried step in the Valley of the Kings near Luxor. He had spent years searching for the lost tomb of Tutankhamun. The excavation revealed a sealed doorway marked with intact royal seals. When Carter opened it in 1923, he found one of the only royal tombs never looted. Inside were more than 5,000 artifacts, and at the center, the king's mummy rested within 9 nested coffins, beneath a gold mask untouched for centuries. Soon after the opening, deaths began to follow. Carter's canary was killed by a cobra, a symbol of royal protection. His patron, Lord Carnarvon, died weeks later from blood poisoning after an infected mosquito bite. Reports claimed that when he died, the electric lights in Cairo went out. Others connected to the tomb also died in the following years, including a radiologist who examined the mummy. Although no clear curse was written inside the tomb, ancient Egyptian burials often included warnings meant to protect the dead. Some believe bacteria or toxic mold may explain the deaths, while others think it was a curse. Death seemed to follow those who entered, and if you were there, would you still go inside? While driving through the desert using night vision goggles, a Reddit user noticed something unusual. He was heading home along a quiet paved road in a dark, isolated area with almost no traffic. Then suddenly, he saw a man standing in the middle of the road. The man appeared to be performing karate moves, striking and fighting at something that was not there. There were no other people or vehicles nearby. The driver stopped and watched for several minutes, but the man kept moving, kicking and punching in the empty road. The driver later mentioned he did not have an SD card in his recorder, so the video quality was poor, but he still shared the footage as proof of what he witnessed. If you saw it, would you stop or keep driving? Someone noticed something disturbing in satellite images on Google Maps across a container yard in Los Angeles. Words appeared to be formed from metal scraps, spelling help multiple times, along with Trafico and LAPD. The markings could be seen in different spots across the property. No one knows exactly what they meant, but many suspected it could be related to human trafficking, with victims possibly trying to signal for help in this way. It raises concern about what could be happening in places like this. In the 1990s, a phone booth stood in the Mojave Desert between Baker and Las Vegas, far from paved roads. Godfrey Daniels found its number in a zine and began calling it. After weeks with no answer, he finally heard a busy signal and kept dialing until someone picked up. A young woman answered, saying she had used the booth. Daniels confirmed it was active and later traveled to the site. The booth stood alone in the Mojave National Preserve. He created a website and shared the number, leading to a rise in calls and visitors driving into the desert to answer ringing phones. In May 2000, the booth was removed, and the number was later linked to a conference line. The booth is gone, but some visitors still report hearing a phone ring at night. What could be causing that sound? And if you heard it in the dark, would you go closer or walk away? A TikToker was exploring an old, quiet graveyard in the desert at an unknown location. He began to feel uneasy and started recording. Just as he did, something suddenly happened. An animal quickly ran off, and loud whistling sounds echoed around him. Moments earlier, the area had been completely empty and silent. Viewers who watched the footage believed the sound did not seem random, with some suggesting it could be connected to a type of jinn. From the video alone, it is impossible to confirm what really happened or whether it was real or staged. At night, a man and his uncle went into the desert to collect firewood. The area was far from any village, with no lights or nearby homes, only darkness. While gathering wood, one of them took a photo and sent it to family to show they were heading back. When the family looked at the picture, they noticed something the two men had missed. On the other side of the truck, behind the stacked firewood, a figure appeared to be standing there. Shocked, they stopped the truck and checked the area, but no one else was there. The man, his uncle, and their family thought it could have been a jinn, while others believed there may have been a third person nearby and the photo simply looked unsettling. What do you think about it? A Reddit user shared a photo of an unusual rock found in the desert, hoping someone could explain it. Its surface looked smooth and rounded, covered in small bubble-like shapes that did not resemble typical stone. One commenter suggested it was botryoidal chalcedony, a mineral known for forming natural clustered patterns. Another thought it might contain fire agate, possibly from Arizona, hinting that color could be hidden inside. It raises a question about how something so unusual can appear natural, and if you found it, would you keep it or leave it behind? This footage was shared on YouTube by a man named James while hiking in the Nevada desert. He claimed he found a strange, unknown object and said he had actually seen it fall from the sky before going to retrieve it. The object appeared metallic and unusual, and he said it produced a buzzing sound.
I go close enough.
But that was not the only strange part. James later claimed he began receiving letters telling him to give up the object and stop sharing information about it. Even so, he kept uploading videos without ever clearly identifying what the object was. Later, he said the whole thing was a hoax, but some viewers were not convinced. Would you believe it or doubt it? In Rajasthan's Thar Desert lie the ruins of Kulara, a village founded in the 13th century by the Paliwal Brahmins. Carefully planned with wide streets and solid desert homes, it thrived for centuries and was connected to more than 80 nearby villages. Then, in a single night, the residents vanished without a trace. Doors were left open, food remained on tables, and there were no signs of a struggle. The entire community simply disappeared. Local records suggest the departure may have been linked to Salim Singh, a powerful minister of Jaisalmer, whose threats could have forced the villagers to leave. Whatever the reason, no other village in the region has ever emptied so suddenly. Attempts to resettle Kulara failed, and the ruins still stand, silent under the desert sun. A local legend warns visitors to leave before dark, and even today, some believe the village carries a lingering curse. In the middle of the desert, a group of hikers came across something unusual. Lying alone among the stones and dust was what looked like a large horned skull. On closer inspection, it appeared to be man-made, possibly created for a ritual or designed to resemble something demonic. The hikers chose to record it and leave it where it was. If you found it, would you leave it or take a closer look? Tassili Najjer is a remote plateau in the southeastern Sahara, known for more than 15,000 ancient rock paintings dating back as far as 12,000 years. Many depict animals and human life from a time when the Sahara was green and full of wildlife. Some figures stand out. They have large round heads and human-like bodies, unlike typical ancient art. These belong to what is known as the round head period, one of the oldest styles at the site. Online, many people compare them to aliens, while others reference ideas that they could represent shamans in altered states. Archaeologists offer a simpler explanation, suggesting they likely show humans wearing masks, ceremonial clothing, or symbolic spiritual forms. There is no confirmed evidence linking them to extraterrestrials, yet the figures still remain difficult to fully explain. Would you think they were symbolic or something else? That's all for tonight's video. Which encounter gave you chills? Let us know in the comments below. Got your own experience? We want to hear it. And whatever you do, don't miss what's coming next.